here to share this exciting process with us is Joel Bylos, the Chief Creative Officer for Dune Awakening. Joel, welcome to the first ever show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
I am so excited that you're here because I get to pick your brain. I have so many questions and I want to dive straight into this. Dune Awakening is a survival MMO. Two words everyone watching will be familiar with, but what's your take on that? What is a survival MMO?
Sure. So survival games are obviously a genre of games about like building yourself up from the bottom and surviving. MMOs are more about social interaction and you know how players work together to achieve big goals. And we thought, why not combine the two? You know, why don't we create a game? Because most of the survival games that are out there, they kind of, you once you get to a certain point of survival, it kind of ends, and that's kind of where you've gotten to. But what we thought was like, the universe of Dune is a perfect place with these politics and this intrigue and there's machinations that happen. So let's get players hooked on the survival and then bring them into the political survival of the Dune universe.
Let's break it down then and dive a little deeper, starting with the survival part. What are we surviving on Arrakis? What's out there? I mean, worms, yeah, players?
Sandstorms.
What else?
Other players. Yeah, so the player, I mean, obviously, Arrakis is all about the heat and the water. So the player, first of all, needs to be searching for water. They need to stay out of the sun, stay in black shade during the daytime, travel by night.
I love it.
That's what the Fremen say, right? That's what the Khitan al-Ghaib says it in the book, right? Black shade by day, travel by night. So the player needs to worry about these things, think about the sunlight, think about where they are, but they also need water because that runs out really quickly without a still suit and you die very fast. So yeah, there's lots of ways in which to get water. You can explore dew fields and eat plant fiber to try and get water out of it. After a while, you start to throw up because you can't really get too much water out of plants that way. And then the way I prefer to do it is to shoot enemies, take their blood,
take their moisture.
Like that.
You just casually dropped that right there. Okay, so we're harvesting blood or just lick some plants, whichever way you choose. You're going to stay
harvesting
hydrated, which is very
your
important.
enemies for their moisture.
Stay hydrated at home.
That's at least probably confirmed.
Are there other resources I need to worry about?
Yeah, so as a player, I mean, it's a proper survival open world crafting game, right? So players will craft their entire arsenal, right? So they'll be collecting resources, they'll be collecting stone, they'll be collecting metals like copper, iron, eventually forging steel, building up the equipment that they have at home. So they'll be crafting, all their weapons, all of their gear, all of their clothing, and they can of course craft themselves a base to live in, craft machines to help them craft bigger machines, which allow them to craft better weapons.
Spice harvesters.
All right, so there's a lot to do, is what I'm hearing. Base building you just mentioned, that's obviously very exciting. I saw you guys shared a sneak peek of what a base could look like already on your TikTok channel. Very cozy. Why would I ever leave a home like that and like head out into the desert? But I'm sure you guys give us plenty of reasons to do just that. Is there anything special about the base building in this game?
Yeah, so we took what we started with in Conan Exiles, our other survival game. We brought that over. Then we started to add to it, right? So we've now created a system for co-op building where you can place out holograms and other players can fill them in. So you work with your friends to build bases. You can also save your bases.
That's great for what we're planning on doing because we're coming in with a community to play this game.
On the exchange,
so shared co-op building. Blueprints that people
really
can
cool.
contribute to. Or you said holograms. One of the things that
I really liked was that players were building the Taj Mahal. They were just building really cool buildings. And it's like, what if you could sell that to another player? That'd be cool, right? So another player might want to be able to just buy that blueprint off you and then place that out in the world and build it themselves.
And people who can all contribute to make the blueprint happen, that's fucking dope.
To be very cooperative.
That's incredible.
Cooperative base building.
I love that. Well, I know my story arc is going to be an architect who harvests blood occasionally, but you do what you got to do. Now that I have my basic needs all met, I'm staying hydrated. In some unkosher ways, and I'm having my base. How do I protect myself and my base from the world? Like, what am I doing for combat here?
So the game has a full leveling system, right? And we do this thing we call combined arms, which is like we have melee, we have ranged, and we have abilities, and we also have vehicles, right? So players can use any combination of these in combat, right? So it's kind of creates this interesting dynamic. So you can learn abilities from the great schools of the universe and learn how to be a Bene Gesserit, compelling your enemies to come close to you so that you can stab them with a knife. and you combine so you're combining melee with abilities there, right? Or you can be a sword master and leap in with a knee charge, knocking people to the ground and then stabbing them. Or you can choose to be like a trooper, and you use your Shigawire reel to pull you up like a grappling hook, to pull you to high places where you can shoot down on your enemies with sniper rifles and shotguns. So there's a large variety of weapons that you can craft through our intricate crafting system, in addition to these abilities that you learn as you level up your character. So you kind of have this freedom of choice, and that's really what Combined Arms is all about. It's sandbox combat. That's what we're trying to call it and what we're going for, right?
It sounds really cool.
Are those hard locked in classes, or is there like can I explore different skill trees? Like,
yes.
Can I be a swordsman or a swordsmaster and also use the voice? Is that possible?
It's absolutely possible. You just have to find the right trainer in the world to teach you these things. So
it's
you
skill
choose
system.
In character creation, you make a choice of who was your mentor when you were young. And then you choose one of the things, and that determines your set of starting abilities.
So
but then when you play the game,
Starfield
you
style.
find trainers in the world.
Yeah.
You have to do things for them, but then they'll eventually teach you some of the way, the path that can take you down some of these skills and abilities. Yeah.
I love that.
So a skill-based system,
lots of things
not
to explore there as a player, and avenues to take, all in order to protect myself.
Yeah, classless Babylonia.
And maybe my friends if I feel like it. What am I protecting? Like, how do I protect myself against sandworms? Like, can I fight them? Can I ride them? Like, what's the deal with them?
Sandworms are like a tension mechanic in the game. We want you to be really worried every time you walk.
Everybody needs to be worried.
You really
need
need to think about what you're doing. So there is no way to kill or defeat sandworms.
No,
the only thing you can
cannot.
do, you just cannot. The only thing you can do is avoid the sandworms, right? So you craft yourself a thumper and place it out to distract a sandworm. Maybe you use it to lure a sandworm onto some friends of yours or some
friends,
depending on how
as
you feel.
one does.
And the other thing you can do, of course, is craft yourself a vehicle. Like we have a range of vehicles in the game, including the iconic ornithopters, and players will be able to craft these, and you'll be able to use these to, of course, traverse safely, right? If you're in an ornithopter, you fly above. If you're on a sand bike or something like that, you can move quickly across the sand. Hopefully a sandworm won't get you if you time it right.
Hopefully.
Hopefully,
That's always hoping. I love a constant looming threat. Sounds really stressful. Sounds perfect, actually, for a survival MMO. Now, you already alluded to some of the cooperative things one can do in-game. Can you elaborate a little bit more here or dive deeper into this? Like,
sure.
Can I, fully go on a journey with someone and do tasks with each other? Like, what can I do with other people?
Yeah, so hook up with your friends, join together with a grouping system. We have a ping system, so you can obviously point out things to players. You will find different roles that you can assume based on the kind of combination of abilities you want to bring with you, and then you can heal your friends, of course, get them up when they get knocked down in combat.
Yeah, no one's going to be farming.
And then of course you go on journeys like we have a system called the journey system. You can go on those journeys together and sort of explore the mystique of the universe. Through that, we also have a contract system. When you go to trade posts, you'll be able to take contracts. Your friend and you can go out and explore and do these contracts together. We have small group play, we have guild play. It's all kind of what you'd expect to see in a social experience.
What's your take on the politics? Because obviously the books and the movies, that's a big part of it, like the whole political intrigue. How predominant is that in the game?
I mean, we want players to be able to dip into it. So you start the game kind of lost in the desert, right? And then by the end of the game, maybe you're the next Baron Harkonnen. So as you play through the game,
who doesn't want to be?
My big vat of oil to soak
in.
As you make your way through the game, you progress and you sort of meet these factions in the world, right? The Atreides and the Harkonnen are at war. There's a war of assassins going on, as it's called. And as a player, you decide which side you want to help, which side you want to join. Then you start to partake in missions for those factions. And eventually, you work your way up through the ranks of the factions, and maybe you take on a position of power as well. So the politics are,
so it's faction-based. You got faction groups that you can join and work your way through up through those ranks.
Around the Sandbox
That's
system.
normal.
So we have this Landsrad. The Landsrad will demand that players do certain things. The factions need to work together or against each other to achieve these goals, right? So there's also this Sandbox element to the politics.
Which also then encourages co-op play or PvP play more.
Co-op play or PvP play, yeah. Yeah, there's this this kind of idea that, when people have the same objective, but they're on opposite sides, it becomes a race between them to achieve that objective, and they'll do all sorts of dirty things to get to the top, right?
Sounds about right.
So if that's optional, I'm okay with
Can I opt out
that.
of politics? Can I just live my peaceful little Swiss life in my cottage?
Absolutely. You can play however you want. I mean, the idea is to be a sandbox and allow people to approach it.
So is he confirming that?
We have one of the rules, one of the pillars of the game is expression and customization, and that's not just about visuals. It's
I want to know,
how
can I play the game PvE and
really
ignore the
about,
PvP
well, I really like to craft and just
or am
set
I
up my
forced
little
into
crafting
it?
setup.
That's all I want to know.
Sell things on the exchange to other players.
My camera
so
heart needs to know,
basically
damn it.
live your life as a crafter. You can also be an architect, as we talked about. You know, you can be a pilot, a scout. You're not really heavily involved in the fighting, but you go out and you craft maps that you sell to other players as well of the world.
Where are we currently at? Like, I know there've been betas already. How many more of those are coming? When is the next one? What's the status of development? Where are we at?
So yeah, we've been running betas now for several months. They've been going really well. We're slowly inviting more people over time. So the game, yeah, I mean, we're not going to rush it out the door. We're going to work with our community and our players, and we're going to try and make the game as good as it possibly can be.
Takes as long as it takes, man.
It takes as long as it takes, and you got to do it well. So yeah, so we're working with our community, and yeah, betas are continuing, right, all the way through launch, and we're going to keep increasing the number of people in those betas, helping us stress test, yelling at us because they get eaten by sandworms, all those kind of good things.
All the good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, have there been any like recent milestones you're particularly excited about, or anything you want to share about the current development?
Sure. There's a thing as a creative director I like to say that we get a few aces every time we make a project. We get to make a few creative bets. There's a thing called the shifting sands, which is one of my most exciting. One of the things that makes me most excited about the game, and that is this location in the world. It's a full PvP area. And every week, the Coriolis storm sweeps in and completely alters the landscape of this area. And I got to see that working for the first time very recently with full landscape changing and people able to play. And it's exciting to see these things coming online. And I think it's something.
So that's
you
know, an environment that's constantly changing, so that the environment is not always the same. You know? That's really cool.
I can't wait to be part of that audience, and I also can't wait to have more opportunities in the future to chat about the development and the process that you and the team are going through. Now, any last words? Anything you want to say to your future player base?
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this journey. I hope today's show was like your first taste of spice. Mildly euphoric, slightly addictive, and leaving you wanting more.
I certainly want more of that.
I'm ready for more.
I'm pretty sure everyone watching as well, so remember, for a chance to get
I think we're about to see a trailer, so
to any of the future closed beta tests.